forgot the cutters and shoved his hand back through the hole, the wire leaving several rows of scratches on the back of his hand and wrist and up his arm like a neatly plowed, bloody field. The deadbolt slipped in his fingers at first, but he managed to get it unlocked, glass crunching under his feet once he finally stepped inside. The hallway was narrow, and with his right hand out, groping in the darkness so he didn't run into anything, he took small, quick steps deeper into the building. The chemical smell that wafted from the film processors he crept past made his eyes water, and the buzzing in his head got higher pitched. The fumes weakened his focus, but the sound of a pump in one of the processors engaging snapped him back to the present. He pressed on, the dim light from low-watt naked bulbs hanging above each processor aiding his way. He was looking for one document, only one. He headed for a metal locker marked Lieutenant Johansson, located near the front counter of the lab. Once he found the locker, he looked in the deeply stained coffee mug. The key to the file cage was there. The locker reeked of perspiration. A jar of hair pomade along with a comb wedged into a hairbrush's bristles sat in the bottom of the locker. Inside the chain-link file cage, where there were rows of file cabinets, he hunted for the one marked GDDE. Inside, among dozens of manila files, was the familiar leather satchel, a set of handcuffs attached to its brown bakelite handle, and a small key to the lock on the satchel's clasp. He opened the satchel and put its contents on a small wooden table in the center of the room and pulled his lighter out. He used the index finger on his uninjured hand to sift through the myriad documents. He was halfway through the pile when he found it, and adrenaline shot through his veins. He raised his eyes to the ceiling and his breathing quickened. It was a piece of letter-sized onion skin. Typed instructions with dates and times filled the page. The number 117 was in the upper right corner. The paper crinkled sharply when he folded it and slid it into his inside breast pocket. After returning the satchel to the file drawer, he locked the enclosure gate and raced back to Johansson's locker. He dumped the key back into the mug and shut the locker. As he approached the rear door of the lab, he skidded to a stop, realizing he didn't have a handkerchief or rag to clean up his blood, nor did he have the time to search for one. He pulled down the right sleeve of his jacket and swiped at the mess, but the drying blood was stubborn. As he pressed harder, he heard shouts from outside, closer this time. Plenty of people had his blood type. It was time to go. He stepped into the stairwell, his right foot landing unevenly in the puddle. The wire cutters. As he bent over to retrieve them, the buzzing in his head intensified. Outside, the air was choked with the smell of burning aviation fuel. The fire seemed to be sapping the fog of its moisture. As he raced away from the shouting, he was pleased with his performance. But he would be happier once he put his hands on more cognac. Chapter 1 1000 hours, Saturday, October 3, 1942. Headquarters of the European Theater of Operations, United States Army, ETO USA, London. The humiliation that Lieutenant Commander Harry Butcher, USNR, suffered over losing his lunch was slightly lessened by his having Miss Weddington leave his office beforehand. He couldn't believe it had taken him only 9 weeks to screw up his plum assignment as General Eisenhower's aide. Visions of boarding a slow boat back to the States by order of the general and being reassigned to a desk deep in the bowels of the Navy's communications department filled his head. That selfish thought was soon overpowered by the magnitude of what Weddington had just told him. A document, one containing the directives of the Allies' first joint offensive action against the Nazis, was missing.
"Miss Weddington, you can come back in now,"
Butcher shouted as he shoved the fouled wastebasket behind the blackout curtains. He looked out his window. Heavy, gray cardstock checkerboarded the large window where panes of glass existed before the Blitz. Through the window's few remaining glass panes, he watched an invasion of low, black clouds marching swiftly northward from the English Channel. As Elizabeth Nasser Weddington, Butcher's secretary, entered the office and approached his desk, Butcher noticed her eyes were red and swollen.